You walked in. That's it. That's the whole event. You simply walked in, no announcement, no entrance music, no carefully rehearsed moment designed to turn heads. You just arrived. And something in the entire atmosphere of that room made a quiet, involuntary decision to reorganize itself around you. And somebody who was watching, somebody who needed to put language to what they were witnessing, because silence felt insufficient, somebody said it. They look like somebody famous. And the room agreed. The room nodded, not loudly, not with applause, just that subtle collective shift of attention that happens when something undeniable enters a space and the space has no choice but to acknowledge it. But here is what that person got wrong. Here is the part of that sentence that missed the point so completely it almost loops back around to being funny. They reached for the closest reference they had. They opened the filing cabinet of every impressive human being they had ever encountered, every face on a screen, every name attached to fame, every person the world had collectively agreed to look at, and they pulled out the nearest comparison and offered it to you like a compliment, like fame was the highest available language for what they were seeing. But fame is not what you are. Fame is a construct. Understand that first. Fame is what happens when visibility meets repetition meets the particular appetite of an era that decides, for reasons that are often completely arbitrary, that this face, this voice, this presence deserves to be amplified until it becomes inescapable. Fame is external. Fame is assigned. Fame is a crowd decision made by people who have never been in the same room as the person they are deciding about. What you carry is nothing like that. What you carry was never assigned by a crowd. It was never voted on. It was never the result of a campaign or a strategy or the right timing in the right industry with the right people making the right calls. What you carry developed the way rare things develop, quietly, privately, through pressure and time and a specific kind of interior work that most people avoid entirely because it is deeply uncomfortable and completely unrewarded in the short term. Your aura is not famous. Your aura is forged, and there is a difference so vast between those two things that putting them in the same sentence is almost a category error. Let's talk about what an aura actually is, because the word gets used loosely. It gets decorated with mystical language and vague spirituality until it floats away from anything concrete and useful. So let's bring it back down. Let's put it on solid ground. Your aura is the cumulative broadcast of everything you have survived, decided, chosen, refused, built, and become, expressed not through your words, not through your resume, not through anything you consciously perform, but through the simple, unedited fact of your presence. It is involuntary. That is the part that unsettles people. They cannot locate the source of it. They watch you and they are waiting for the trick, for the studied gesture, the rehearsed confidence, the strategic deployment of charisma that they can learn and replicate. They are waiting for the technique, and there is no technique. There is just you, fully assembled, fully present, carrying the full weight of everything you are without apology and without performance and without the nervous, constant checking that most people do, that perpetual interior glance toward the mirror of other people's reactions to make sure they are still acceptable, still approved of, still landing correctly. You stopped doing that check a long time ago, and that stopping is where the aura was born. Because here is what most people do not understand about presence. Real, undeniable, walk into a room and rearrange it presence. They think it is about confidence. They think it is about how you dress or how you hold your shoulders or what your face does when someone looks at you. They consume content about body language and power poses and vocal tonality and eye contact, and they practice all of it in front of mirrors, and they walk into rooms having rehearsed their own arrival. And it shows. It shows because rehearsed is its own frequency. Rehearsed has a particular texture that human beings can feel even when they cannot name it. Something in the nervous system, something ancient and accurate, registers the difference between a person who is performing confidence and a person who simply is what they appear to be. Performed confidence asks the room for something. It enters with an invisible question underneath every gesture. Do you see me? Do you accept me? Am I enough? Am I landing? Am I impressive? Your presence asks the room for nothing, and that is precisely what makes it impossible to ignore. Think about what that means for a moment. Really think about it. In a world that is absolutely saturated with people performing themselves, curating, filtering, optimizing, presenting the most strategic version of their own existence across every available surface, you are something genuinely unusual. You are someone who has done the interior work, not the work that produces a better performance, the work that makes performance unnecessary, the long, unglamorous, frequently painful work of actually knowing who you are beneath all the identities you were handed by other people, beneath the expectations, beneath the roles, beneath the accumulated opinions of everyone who ever looked at you and decided what you were before you had fully decided for yourself. You went underneath all of that, and you found something real. And you built your life on top of that, instead of on top of the performance. And now when you enter a room, what people are responding to, even when they cannot articulate it, even when the best language they can find for it is a celebrity comparison, what they are responding to is the extraordinary rarity of encountering a person who is entirely, uncomplicatedly, actually themselves. That is what the aura is. It is the signal that says, this person has done the work. This person is not a draft. This person is not still waiting to become something. This person has arrived at themselves and they are not leaving. And now let's talk about the don't even try part. Because that is the part that people misread. That is the part that gets interpreted as coldness or arrogance or unapproachability. People feel that signal, that specific, unmistakable frequency that says this is not someone you can handle casually. And they translate it through their own limitations into something negative. They say you are intimidating, as if that is your problem, as if the solution is for you to make yourself smaller, softer, easier, more digestible. To sand down the very edges that make you what you are, so that people who have done no interior work of their own can feel comfortable in your vicinity without having to confront the distance between where they are and where you are. No, that signal is not arrogance. That signal is discernment made visible. Your aura does not say, don't even try to everyone. That is the misreading. What it actually says is far more specific than that. It says, don't try to be casual with something that is not casual. Don't try to be superficial with something that has no interest in surfaces. Don't try to approach with half of yourself and expect full access. Don't try to bring noise to something that operates in depth. It is a frequency check, and the people who feel shut out by it are simply the people whose frequency doesn't match. And that is not cruelty. That is physics. Because the people whose frequency does match, they don't feel that signal as don't even try. They feel it as recognition. They feel it as finally something real in a landscape of performances. Finally something I don't have to decode or second guess or hold carefully because it might shatter. Finally, someone I can bring my full self to because their full self is already in the room and there is no pretense here to protect. Those people find you approachable in exactly the proportion that others find you formidable. And that asymmetry is not an accident. That asymmetry is the design. Your presence is not a public building with open access and no requirements. It is not a space that anyone can wander into and treat casually and leave without having genuinely engaged. It has a standard, not an arbitrary one, not a cruel one, a real one. The standard of come with your whole self or do not come at all. Bring something genuine or keep your distance until you find it. And in a world where most people are so accustomed to performing their way through every interaction, through every room, every conversation, every connection, that standard feels radical. It feels almost aggressive. It feels like a wall, but it is not a wall. It is an invitation with requirements. Now, let's address the celebrity comparison one more time because it deserves a proper response. When someone says you look like somebody famous, they are doing something very human and very understandable. They are reaching for a shorthand. They are trying to say you belong in a category of people the world pays attention to. You have the quality of someone the world has collectively agreed is worth looking at, worth knowing about, worth following, and that is a sincere compliment. But it is also, in the most gentle possible way, a misdiagnosis. Because the people the world calls famous, some of them are extraordinary, genuinely. Some of them have done real work and carry real substance and deserve every unit of attention they receive. But fame itself, the mechanism, the apparatus, the industry of being known, that machine does not exclusively reward depth. It rewards visibility. It rewards timing. It rewards the particular alchemy of the right look, meeting the right moment, meeting the right platform, meeting the right cultural appetite. Depth is optional in that equation. You are not optional. Your depth is not a bonus feature. It is the whole thing. It is the foundation and the structure and the atmosphere all at once. And no comparison to someone whose primary achievement is being widely seen does justice to someone whose primary quality is being genuinely, irrevocably, completely real. So what do you do with that? What does a person do with the understanding that what they carry is rare, genuinely, not as flattery, not as motivation speak, but as plain observable fact, rare in a way that most available language cannot properly capture? You protect it. You protect it the way rare things deserve to be protected. Not with fear, not with walls, not with the brittle, anxious overguarding of someone who suspects their value might be fragile. With the calm, unshakable stewardship of someone who knows what they have built and has no intention of allowing the noise of the world to erode it. You stop explaining yourself to people whose only goal is to reduce you to something they can comfortably categorize. Because some people, when they encounter something they cannot immediately file, something that doesn't fit the available boxes, something that exceeds the measurements they were prepared to apply, their instinct is not wonder. Their instinct is reduction. Make it smaller. Make it familiar. Make it something I already have a response prepared for. And you are not responsible for making that easier for them. Your existence is not a puzzle to be solved at their convenience. Your presence is not a phenomenon that requires their validation to be real. Their inability to find the right category for you is their limitation to manage, not yours to resolve by shrinking. Let them be confused. Confusion in the presence of something genuine is actually a sign that their instruments are working correctly. It means they are sensing something real that doesn't match their existing models. That is the appropriate response to encountering you. And here is the thing about auras like yours. the ones that are forged rather than performed, built rather than assigned. They grow, not louder, not more dramatic, not in the theatrical direction that gets noticed in obvious ways. They grow deeper, more settled, more completely themselves. Every year that passes, every experience that is absorbed and processed and integrated rather than avoided, every difficult thing that is walked through with full awareness rather than bypassed with numbness, all of it adds to what you carry. You are not at your most powerful right now. Think about that. Right now, with everything you already carry, with the presence you already have, with the signal you already broadcast that makes rooms reorganize and people reach for the highest comparison language available to them, right now is not your peak. You are still becoming. And the version of you that exists 10 years from now, the one with another decade of chosen experiences and survived difficulties and deepened understanding and refined discernment, that version will walk into rooms and the comparison will fail completely. Not because fame became the wrong word, because no external reference will be adequate at all. People will simply feel it and have no language for it. And that is a destination worth moving toward. But let's be honest about what that journey requires, because this is not a comfortable path. Carrying what you carry, being genuinely fully yourself in a world that applies constant pressure to be a more convenient, more palatable, more easily digestible version, that requires a specific daily resistance that nobody sees and nobody applauds. It requires saying no to the performance, when the performance would be easier and safer and more immediately rewarded. It requires staying grounded when everything around you is encouraging you to float into a curated version of yourself that photographs better and offends fewer people and fits more neatly into the available narratives. It requires trusting what you carry, even on the days when nobody in the room can see it. And there are those days. They exist. The days when you wonder whether the depth is worth the distance it creates, whether the standard is worth the solitude it sometimes produces, whether it would simply be easier to turn down the frequency, to become more accessible by becoming less completely yourself. On those days, hear this, on those days what you are experiencing is not doubt about your value. It is the fatigue of carrying something real in a world that often rewards the replica over the original. And that fatigue is valid. But it is not evidence. It is not evidence that you should change direction. It is not evidence that what you carry is wrong or excessive or misplaced. It is evidence that genuine things require genuine maintenance, that depth requires tending, that the work of being fully, authentically, uncompromisingly yourself is actual work, not a one-time decision, but a daily practice, a daily return to what you know to be true about who you are and what you are here to be. So the next time someone looks at you and reaches for a celebrity comparison, and they will, because it will keep happening, because the phenomenon of you will keep producing that response in people who are trying to honor what they're seeing with the biggest language they have available. Receive it gracefully. Let them have the comparison. Let them feel good about offering it. They are doing their best with their available vocabulary. They are trying to say, you are extraordinary, and they reached for the nearest word their culture gave them for extraordinary. But in the quiet of your own understanding, know the difference. Know that what they are responding to has nothing to do with resemblance and everything to do with residence. You are fully resident in yourself, fully occupying your own existence, fully present in your own skin, without the constant flinching, the constant adjusting, the constant monitoring of whether you are being received correctly. That residency is what they feel. That is the aura, not a look, not a bone structure, not a quality of light around famous people that somehow attached itself to you by fortunate resemblance. A quality of being. A quality of having done enough interior work that who you are on the inside and who you appear to be on the outside have finally, completely arrived at the same address. Most people spend their entire lives with a gap between those two things. The interior self and the presented self perpetually at a distance from each other, close enough to be exhausting, far enough apart to create that specific low-level permanent discomfort of never quite feeling seen because what is being seen is never quite what is real. You closed that gap. You closed it through choices that cost something. Through moments where you chose truth over convenience, depth over approval, the slower authentic path over the faster performed one. Through the accumulated weight of every time you decided, quietly, without announcement, without reward, that you would rather be genuinely yourself in an empty room than a performance of yourself in a full one. And now the rooms are full anyway, because real recognizes real. And the world, for all its noise and performance and preference for the curated over the genuine, the world still responds to something completely, unmistakably real the way it responds to nothing else. With attention it cannot explain, with a comparison it cannot quite complete. With that specific, helpless, involuntary acknowledgement that says, something just walked in, something that is not famous, something better, something that built itself from the inside out and carries the evidence of that construction in every unperformed, unfiltered, completely inhabited moment of its existence. That is you. That has always been you, and you are only just beginning.